Orchard and expecting the polling place to open at 7 a.m. today, and they were informed that it doesn't open till 11. I'm trying to get confirmation on that, pass that along, because obviously people get turned away or they can't vote and they may never come back to vote. That's the problem that we deal with. If you try to leave your selection to vote till November 5th, you never know what could happen. And Julianne Murray's been talking about that. She's the chair of the Delaware Republican Party. She was on this broadcast and talked about it yesterday. She was on our local flagship this morning with my colleague Mike Bradley and talked about it with him as well. All right, let's go to Commander Tom, 22 and a half years, United States Navy, holding on line 2. Go ahead, Commander.
Yes, very quickly. Forgetting things. Oh, I thought you might have forgotten about me. Sniff, sniff, number one. Number two, you had him on the line and you forgot. Today is Father John's birthday. He is 85 years old, God bless him, and I think we all should say a prayer for him. All should say a prayer for him, for how great he is and what he's gone through. And people actually knew what his whole, and you know it, what his whole history is and his background is with the Navy, being an assistant to Admiral Rickover in nuclear and everything under the sun. And the third thing is, tomorrow from 2:30 to 6:30, I will be at Suite 13 at Midway, the Midway Shopping Center, which is where you can vote early, and I will be working the polls.
You will be working the polls. Wow.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
And then what do you call it? I was going to do it Saturday and Sunday, but the whole thing is I can't do it on Sunday because on Sunday at 5 o'clock I will be on the Cape Water taxis going to the Red Lighthouse to do 2 shows on the breakwater. And they will be the 6th and 7th shows that I've been doing in the last couple of weeks on the breakwater as Willard Hall, the keeper of the lighthouse from 1885. And I know I look my age, right? I said it before you did, so yeah, you couldn't say it on me, okay? And then we have that show, and then we have one on Monday and one on Tuesday, and they're all sold out.
All right. Thank you, Commander. We appreciate you calling in this morning. My friends, Mike just sent me, my colleague Mike Bradley from our flagship, WGMD, sent me a text. It's 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's voting in the first state, the first 5 days. That's from October 25th until October 29th. And then the following 5 days, from October 30th through November 3rd, it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So the first 5 days, thank you, Mike, for this, and thank you, Walt, for sending in the actual schedule. I don't know why it was done this way. It probably should have been the same every day, but of course, as confusing as they can make it, the Department of Elections usually does, and there you go. So it's 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. early voting from today. That's October 25th until October 29th. Then, from October 30th through November 3rd, that is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and I believe November 3rd is when we turn the clocks back 1 hour. Okay, there we go. And thank you, Commander, for reminding us that it was Father John's birthday. I didn't know it was Father John. Father John, I'm sorry. Happy birthday. God bless you. You know how much we love you. So let's go to line 2 on the Meineke, doing Car Care Right Talk lines 8 minutes before the hour. Joan from Milford, and just like Commander Tom, who promised to be quick, Joan is going to do the same. Go ahead, Joan. He stole your thunder.
Good morning, Jake. I loved your monologue.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm the one that sniffs the milk, too. Anyway, Bill will be voting this morning at Ellendale.
Okay.
So early getting that in. And I took care of it through my absentee ballot because of my issues.
Yes.
Anyway, real quick. See? You got me in that habit of real quick. Okay. Hillary. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, and there's nothing wrong with this, and I'm going to make my point after I tell you this. She's got Jewish blood in her. Now, shame on her for resurrecting the likes of Hitler. And John Kerry, I don't know if you're aware of this, that's not his real name. He has Jewish blood in him, too. Now, you have to look it up. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but
I have no. All I know is that John Kerry is an enemy of the United States of America.
That's right.
He's an ally of Iran, a climate hoaxer. who thinks he's privileged. He can fly around in private planes while threatening us to pay fees for creating carbon, and that is, I mean, that's who John Kerry is.
Yes, and my point is because they're secular, they're ashamed of who they are. Now, Donald Trump, I believe even his name was changed for some reason. But anyway,
their name was Trump in Germany. I don't believe that's, unless it was changed generations ago.
Yes, I believe it was. It was something, anyway. Okay, now he is of German and Scottish descent.
Yes,
now, I don't
he
know
is.
if they're picking on him because of that, and I'll tell you why. My dear Uncle Edward, he was a wonderful human being, fought during World War I. Well, during World War II, there was what they call a German-American club. I believe I brought that up to you quite a while ago. He joined that to fight the Nazis right here in America. And what a good man. He was Lutheran, and he converted to Catholicism at the end of his life. Now, lastly, about the German people, a lot of them were unfairly caught up in the Hitler mania. A lot of them died.
But Joan, why were they caught up in the beginning? Because Hitler promised to bring Germany back from what continental Europe had done to them, bankrupted them, destroyed their industries, destroyed their farming, destroyed the value of their currency. So, of course, people who lived here didn't want to see their homeland, their German homeland, destroyed, and they supported Hitler. That was way before what Hitler had done, which unfortunately started the Second World War. I mean,
absolutely.
Remember when Hitler wanted the French to surrender in the same cable car, streetcar that the Germans were forced to sign their surrender at the end of World War I? I mean, that's what it was all about, and that's why people here in this country who were German immigrants, and they left Germany because they were starving. They couldn't make a living. That's why they had supported Hitler.
And the Polish.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jake. And the Polish people. My husband is of Polish descent, 100%. And his grandmother asked him a question: why is the soil in Poland so rich? Because of the blood of your ancestors. Because how they were murdered.
That's
because of Hitler.
That's well, unfortunately, the Poland was attacked first by Hitler by the air, by the Luftwaffe.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that's not what the people were cheering on at Madison Square Garden. Americans who were in support at that time of Nazism, although Hillary Rotten Clinton would like you to believe that, right?
And before she opens her big damn mouth, she ought to learn her history. And you know what?
She knows her history, but she has selective history because they use it for propaganda. That's what communists do, Joan. It's all about propaganda.
She's a used-up old hag. Why don't you just go away? Listen, Hillary, go away. Don't go away mad. Just go away, right? Anyway, everybody have a nice weekend. You take care, Jake.
All right, thank you, Joan. God bless you.
WGMD, yes, you're the best. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, let's just go to the chat room for just a moment. My friends, if you'd like to jump on now, realnewstalk.com, be a producer. You won't be sorry. This is the future of talk radio, where it is interactive, where you participate. You get to ask the questions of our panelists. Bob and Lewes says, your monologue was hilarious. You and Nancy have achieved the American refrigerator dream. Thank you. Colonel Williams loved the monologue as well. Nancy, I played it for her this morning privately before I left because I didn't know how she would take it. She chuckled. She thought it was funny. So there you go. Now, let me get to our program coming up just in, let's see, Sturdley's got it up here. We'll be going to Fox News in, let's see, All right, it's about 12 minutes to our first panelist, who's Ken Abramovitz. Ken's been on with us before. He's the author of a book, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Ken is the founder of SaveTheWest.com. SaveTheWest.com. It's a website dedicated to saving Western civilization from itself. So Ken is going to tell us who he thinks is responsible for the intel leak which occurred by way of, it appears, Iranian agents to help Iran and hurt Israel's military options against the Iranians, against Tehran. Now at 10:35, election integrity is going to be the topic with our panelists. We are going to welcome to the program Ken Cuccinelli is going to be joining us. Commander Gregory Stenstrom is scheduled to join us. We're going to update you on all the threats to the election. My friends, there's a lot of things going on already. Lawsuits, threats of lawsuits. We're going to have all of that information coming up for you. If you're concerned about election integrity, be a part of this broadcast. Get your questions uploaded. And if you had questions last week for Ken Cuccinelli, Ken, as you know, was not on. We rescheduled for today. You have got to go into your notes as a producer and upload those questions again. Jeffrey Lord will talk to us a little later on in the second hour at 11 o'clock about the Naziizing of Donald Trump, how the Hitler and all of the Nazi claims, have they done any damage to Trump? We'll have that conversation for you as well.
The official talk radio station of the White Marlin Open, WGMD Rehoboth Beach, Ocean City, and WUSX Seaford, Salisbury. News, talk, and sports.
A Texas two-step. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Both former President Trump and Vice President Harris are going there today, even though it's not considered a toss-up state. Fox's Jackie Heinrich is where Harris will be, Houston.
To spotlight the state's restrictive abortion rights in hopes of generating headlines to mobilize voters in states that will decide the election. States like Arizona and Nevada, where abortion's on the ballot. The campaign hopes tonight that people who are having their freedoms rolled back, in Harris's words, are going to make the case that another Trump presidency would go even further.
Now, Beyonce will join Harris on stage there the day after Bruce Springsteen and former President Obama made anti-Trump speeches at her rally in Georgia.
Just because he acts goofy does not mean his presidency wouldn't be dangerous.
Now, former President Trump keeps blaming Harris for record illegal immigration, making the U.S., as he calls it, a garbage can for the world.
She has unleashed an army of migrant gangs who are waging a campaign of violence.
That was in Arizona. Trump also rallied last night in Las Vegas, where Fox's Alexis McAdams, traveling with him, is just about to board a plane.
Heading straight to Austin, Texas. He's going to do that sit-down interview with Joe Rogan for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, hitting all different topics, and then we'll talk about border security.
Tonight there will be a Trump rally in Michigan, another toss-up state where in-person early voting starts tomorrow. Nearly 31 million Americans have already voted. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met in London today with Lebanon's Prime Minister, as Fox's Matt Finn reports from Tel Aviv.
Hezbollah fired war rockets from Lebanon here into Israel, pretty much a daily occurrence here. And the IDF now says it has lost 10 soldiers in total killed in battle over the past 24 hours or so.
Israeli airstrikes targeting Hezbollah killed 3 journalists. The Wall Street Journal reports Russia's been helping other Iran-backed militants in Yemen, providing targeting data for the Houthis who've been attacking ships in the Red Sea region for months. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're in the market for a rifle, a shotgun, or a revolver, you definitely want to go with the best in the business. And as far as I'm concerned, that's only one place, Henry Repeating Arms. You're going to be amazed by the quality craftsmanship, the buttery smooth action. It makes them a pleasure to shoot. Every one of my Henrys accurate right out of the box. They've all been reliable ever since. Now, the best way to learn about Henry's 200 models, just go to their website. It's one word, henryusa.com. You'll get a free catalog. They'll send you free decals, a list of dealers where you are, and they have a great newsletter as well, and they showcase their made-in-America firearms. Henrys are backed by a lifetime warranty, 100% satisfaction, made in America, not made at all. That simple. And if you have questions, you can call their award-winning customer service department. Speak with an expert that will help you. Make sure you go to henryusa.com, get your free catalog, free decals, a list of dealers where you are, henryusa.com, a great American.
The station Delaware and Maryland turns to for local news. Here is another Delmarva news update here on 92.7 WGMD, WGMD.com, and the WGMD app.
I'm Bill Robbins in the Talk of Delmarva newsroom. The drought conditions have had a major impact on the corn and soybean crops in Delaware, with soybean yields running well below normal for full season beans. For double crop beans after wheat and barley, those yields, if not irrigated, are going to be extremely low. Delaware Secretary of Agriculture Michael Scoos tells the Talk of Delmarva that on top of all that, producers are trying to get the winter crops wheat and barley planted.
They're planting those crops basically in powder. The crops that I've seen planted so far are coming up spotty as best if they're on dry land and not where it's irrigated. So, it can be a double whammy for the producers if we don't get rain to get that crop germinated so that they can have a crop to harvest next June.
He says most irrigated corn yields are running 20 to 30 bushels below where they should with recent dry conditions and heat waves this past summer. One pill can kill, that's the message from a new mobile unit in Salisbury that's on the streets to deal with the opioid crisis. The fire department calls it a mission to reach people with substance abuse issues where they are, literally. EMTs and paramedics on board will try to work with those people and convince them to seek care and show them the options they have if they respond positively. The van is out on weekdays from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. and can respond immediately to a call from 911. Governor John Carney has ordered the Delaware flag to be lowered to half-staff tomorrow from sunrise to sunset in remembrance of former Lewes Mayor Ted Becker on the day of his celebration of life. He served 8 years as mayor of Lewes and 10 years on the Lewes City Council. Former Mayor Becker recently served as the Sussex County Commissioner for the Delaware River and Bay Authority.
WGMD AccuWeather.
Lots of sunshine, 65 this afternoon, seas 3 to 5 feet, winds will be southwest in the afternoon, 6 to 12 knots, cloudy tonight, 49 degrees inland, 57 at the beach. For more on these and other stories, visit talkofdelmarva.com.
Dive into a sea of flavor at the Surfing Crab Restaurant, where they've proudly served the best steamed crabs on Delmarva for 2 decades. Open Wednesday through Friday at 3 p.m., 12 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Indulgent crabs by the dozen. Or order an all-you-can-eat feast, including hush puppies, french fries, and homemade coleslaw. Located on Route 1 Lewes. Call for pricing and availability and to pre-order crabs before they sell out. 302-644-4448. The Surfing Crab, where every day is a celebration.
Listen up, Delmarva anglers. The Talk Delmarva Fishing Report.
Brought to you by Complete Tree Care, licensed and insured. Request an estimate at CompleteTreeCareDE.com.
It's time for the Talk Delmarva Fishing Report with Eric Burnley.
Thursday, we had small craft advisories flying, and no boats sailed from Lewes Harbor Marina or from Indian River Marina. It didn't take long the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission to react to the Maryland Young of the Year striped bass report. They're holding a special meeting in December to see what they can do to reduce the commercial and recreational take of striped bass. As far as Delaware is concerned, we can only take 1 fish per day in the 28 to 31 inch slot, except during July and August when we have a special Delaware Bay season when we can take 1 fish between 20 and 25 inches. Already, Maryland has closed their trophy season and a 2-week period during the summer when water temperatures are at their highest. I would not be shocked to see a moratorium until the Young of the Year improve. This is Eric Burnley with your Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Attention Talk of Delmarva listeners. The WGMD app has been updated and is ready for you to download. Simply visit the Apple Store or Google Play and search WGMD and download the file to update your smart device. The updated app will allow you to listen to 92.7 or 98.5 through your smart device, streaming audio. Another service from the many platforms of the Talk of Delmarva.
Mic up there a little bit better. Okay. You're watching or perhaps listening to yournewstalk.com. It's great to have you aboard this morning for the next 2 hours. We will be bringing some very important information. There's some topics that need to be discussed, and one of those, my friends, is the situation, the current situation with us stabbing Israel in the back. We're waiting for Kenneth Abramovitz. Kenneth is the author of The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Ken is the founder of SaveTheWest.com, a website dedicated to saving Western civilization itself. Ken, I see him as getting ready to come on. Snurdly will put him up in just a moment. But the fact is, my friends, Iranian agents clearly have infiltrated our government at the highest levels. That's what's happened here. That's what appears to be the case. And the problem is that those in Washington and responsible for national security appear to know who those Iranian agents are and what they've been up to, but for some reason the Biden regime has failed to do anything about it. One of them, which is suspected of leaking this satellite data and posting it on Telegram on a site that is friendly to Tehran, works for the Department of Defense. How can this be? Well, let us welcome Ken Abramovitz. Ken has been on with us on the radio show. Ken, it's great to have you on. Ken, the author of The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Ken is the founder of SaveTheWest.com, a website dedicated to saving Western civilization from itself. Ken, thanks so much. It's great having you back on the broadcast. I'm glad that you're on our streaming digital interactive show today. A lot of questions for you, but let me ask, when you saw that there was this kind of intel breach with respect to our agreements or our trust between the U.S. and Israel, what was your thought?
Well, it's typical for the Biden administration, because the Biden administration is full of enemies of Israel and full of enemies of America. So it was not a huge shock that they would leak something like this to Iran and to the public.
You have obviously been trying to warn the world about the threat to our very freedoms, the threats to our culture with respect to political Islam. Right now, we have Iranian agents operating inside our government. The most recent was Robert Malley, and the administration knew about him for quite some time, right?
Well, yes. I mean, Robert Malley is viciously anti-America. I call him an Iranian agent, but you could just call him an Iranian sympathizer. Brought in with him three, again, Iranian agents, or you could call them Iranian sympathizers, however you want to characterize them. So one obvious question, and by the way, Malley was found giving confidential information to the Iranians, and so they pushed him out of the government, but I believe they're still paying him, and they haven't arrested him for treason. So one of the obvious questions is, who hired Malley?
Right.
Who allowed him to bring in the three sympathizers? Who's Malley's boss? And who allowed him to get national security clearance? All those people have to be fired and then arrested for treason.
And we don't see any indication that the Department of Justice is going to arrest anyone in connection with spying on behalf of Iran, correct?
Yes, they're all in cahoots.
Yeah, and that's, again, that is what we're dealing with. Ken, I've got a question here from one of our producers, Harry in Milton, Delaware, and he asks, well, it's a comment, but I'm going to ask you to respond. Ceasefire in Israel is impossible and naive while one side is committing acts of war. Every time a child is taught that the greatest glory is jihad and the murder of Jews, an act of war is being committed. How do you stop this turnstile generating of terrorists? How do you do that?
By the way, it's like asking Franklin Roosevelt in 1942 or 43, Mr. President, how do we get a ceasefire with the Germans and the Japanese? he would say to you, I have to defeat the Germans and Japanese.
Right,
There's
victory.
no
Victory.
military solution, right. And unconditional surrender. Well, Israel's in the same situation. It's now time for unconditional surrender of Hamas, unconditional surrender of Hezbollah, and within 3 to 6 months, unconditional surrender of Iran. And because there's no negotiating with these, I call them a death count. This is an Islamo-Nazi death count, and there's no negotiations possible.
Our producer 3M asked Ken, from your book intro, it says the book is about mounting a multifaceted defense that will save America as a democracy. This past 4 years have been horrible. How has your opinion changed?
Well, we're in worse shape now than we were when I wrote the book. I was warning in that book 4 years ago, it's been updated twice since, that the reds, the greens, and the blues, color code the bad guys, which is the communists, red, traditional color for communists, green, traditional color for Islam, but I'm talking about the Islamists, and then the blues, traditional color for the United Nations, and the globalists. So I was warning that the reds, the greens, the blues are trying to take over America, and they've made a lot of progress in the past 4 years under the Biden-Harris administration, and that's why the administration is an existential risk to America.
3M has a follow-up question. He was asking about your opinion about the threats to America on our frightening national debt. Is that as just as big a threat, do you think, to America as any of our foreign adversaries?
Well, there's a big difference from World War I and II and World War III. We're in World War III right now. World War I and II was fought over there. World War III, to quote the Beatles song, is here, there, and everywhere. So we're fighting, every country's fighting every country, every place. So the debt is a symbol of our mismanagement, because it's one thing to spend $5 billion on COVID, because we had to, but to spend $5 billion or trillion rather, on the Green New Deal made no sense at all, and that's what took inflation from 2% to 9%. So the debt is a symbol of our mismanagement.
Ken Abramowitz is joining us. Ken is the author of The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Ken is the founder of SaveTheWest.com, a website which is dedicated to saving Western civilization from itself. Ken, I'm not sure if you heard or saw the clip that's been played today. It's gone viral. Hillary Clinton was on CNN yesterday and said that President Trump's rally, scheduled for Sunday at Madison Square Garden in New York, is just a reenactment of the 1939 Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. She called the attendees, they're obviously MAGA supporters, neo-Nazis. Did you see that clip, hear that clip, and if so, what's your response to it?
No, I did not see it yet, but it makes sense, because the Democrats have to steal the election in order to win, because there's not enough real Americans to vote for them. The number one way to steal the election, people think it's election games on election night or election day. The number one way to steal the election is slander. So the Democrats are masters at slander. So this is a great example of slander and election interference. He just invented that. The administration, you know how I know what the administration thinks? Because what they do is when they believe something, they project it onto Trump. So the administration is full of Nazis, full of fascists, full of communists, full of Islamists, and they project that onto Trump, and that's pure slander, election interference. But they won't get away with it this time.
And Ken, I've got a question from our producer, Bob. Which foreign group is now the biggest threat to the United States, or the biggest threat, the American Democratic Party, now controlled by communists? Obviously, this is not the Democrat Party of our parents and grandparents. This is a different Democrat Party.
this Democrat Party is working for the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues. They're basically Americans who are behaving as foreign agents on behalf of the Reds, China, Russia, the Greens, Iran, Qatar, and the Blues, the United Nations, World Economic Forum, and drug cartels. So the number one challenge we have is confronting all of these enemies simultaneously.
Right.
But if you ask me to pick one right now, it's between China and Iran, but I'll pick Iran because Iran's promised to kill everyone in America. China's not trying to kill everyone in America. And Iran has to be confronted in the next 3 to 6 months before they develop a nuclear bomb. That's where the action is.
All right, we'll be back. Not very optimistic news from our guest, Ken Abramovitz. We'll be back with the panel here on Your News Talk America. Please stay with us.
This weather report is brought to you by Kelly's Outdoors, now stocked with new firearms. The locals' favorite outdoor superstore, Kelly's Outdoors in Millsboro.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Bright sunshine expected today with daytime highs approaching 68. Northwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 52. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. Daytime highs approaching 70 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Dry with temps a bit below average Sunday and Monday, and highs from the upper 50s to the low 60s. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center along the coast. Right now, it's 56 degrees.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
As Cybersecurity Awareness Month winds down, LifeLock reminds you to update your software regularly. These updates fix security flaws that could be exploited by identity thieves. But don't stop there. LifeLock offers comprehensive identity theft protection that goes the extra mile. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious use of your info, but also takes action to resolve identity theft issues, guaranteed, or your money back. Start your 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
This is your Sussex County Councilman, Mark Schaefer. Sussex County is the most wonderful, vibrant, diverse, and beautiful places to live. I am very proud to be your neighbor and am blessed to be able to get up every day and work for you. I ask you to vote for Mark Schaefer, Sussex County Council, early and on November 5th. If you have questions, my personal cell phone number is posted on my website, SchaeferForSussex.com.
Paid for by Schaefer for Sussex.
Based on hundreds of 5-star reviews, Gun Shooter Enterprises is proud to be rated by Delaware locals as their favorite gun shop. When you walk through the door at Gun Shooter Enterprises in Millsboro, you'll be met with a knowledgeable staff and respect. Customers love the transparent pricing of new and used inventory, the in-house experienced repair team, and the firearms training classes. Visit them in downtown Millsboro with plenty of free public parking at gunshooter.com or call 302-663-0838.
This is State Representative Rich Collins. Thank you for allowing me to serve the 41st District in the Delaware House. With your support this election, I will continue defending freedom of speech, religious liberty, and the Second Amendment. I will also continue to vote against all tax increases, electric vehicle mandates, offshore windmills, boys playing girls sports, and COVID vaccine mandates. Early voting has begun, so today is a great day to cast your vote.
Paid for by Friends of Rich Collins.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
And one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is
Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. So I don't think we can ignore it.
Just a moment ago, Ken Abramovich was talking about what I call the Democrat Communist Party. They accuse President Trump of what they are guilty of. But our next panelist, I want to welcome him in, retired Special Agent Eric Caron. Eric, you think it's time to outlaw the Democrat Party. Eric is also the author of Switched On, The Heart and Mind of a Special Agent. Yeah. Eric J. Caron. Eric, thank you so much for joining the panel this morning. Tell us what you mean about outlawing the Democrat Party, because I have been calling them, for as long as anyone will listen, the Democrat Communist Party.
Amen, Jeff. Jake, thank you for having me on your show.
Pleasure, sir.
Listen, George Washington has a quote, and I love it. Guard against the imposters of pretended patriotism. And we have a political party, masquerading, if you will. And it's actually been terrorizing America for many, many years. And let's just define terrorism by the FBI, if I may quote.
Please.
Unlawful use of force and violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government, a civilian population, or any segment thereof in furtherance of political or social objectives. That kind of sounds like what's been happening to our nation these last 4 years. You look at the DEI that's going on throughout this nation. Children with sex changers at 10 years old or 15 years old. You look at the spying that's been going on by the Department of Justice of President Trump and others throughout this nation. Our first
Let me stop you there, Eric, because it's gone even further than that. This past week, Merrick Garland has assigned the FBI to monitor Trump supporters and intimidate them at polling places. That's going on as well. So it's not only investigations and monitoring, it's intimidation as well. I'd like to just include that in your summary.
Amen. Listen, I've been saying for a while, my friend, is that Washington needs a colonoscopy. The Department of Justice, Injustice, needs a colonoscopy. The Department of Homeland Security needs it. Our entire government needs a colonoscopy right now. And under this administration, and it goes back to Obama, they've been trampling on all our rights, First Amendment, our Second Amendment, our Fourth Amendment rights to be secure in our property, in our homes, what we do online. They've been spying on Americans. And so this party's been acting more like a terror organization than anything else. We've lost 3,000 Americans on 9/11. Every year, my friend, we lose about 100,000 Americans to fentanyl coming from Mexico these last 4 or 5 years. And I think it's about time we declare war on the Mexican cartels, but this administration has been colluding with the Mexican cartels, aiding and abetting them, and killing over 100,000 Americans. This is not the Democrat Party of JFK. This is a party that needs to be outlawed.
Let me kind of segue into this in this next topic. One of the problems we have is our courts have been corrupted. We saw what happened to President Trump this past summer. We've got a number of election lawsuits from 2020. We can't even count on the courts supporting the United States Constitution anymore. Eric, what do you say about how our courts have been manipulated and corrupted? And that started, of course, with Eric Holder and Barry Soetoro Obama.
Of course. I mean, the radical judges that have been appointed over these last 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years has been astonishing. We have a judge in Massachusetts that an illegal alien that was taken into custody for local crime was before her. And what did she do? This is a judge. She knew that there are ICE officials in the courtroom, and she told the illegal alien, come this way, back door. She knowingly took the illegal alien out her back door to avoid being arrested by ICE. Yep. It's a criminal illegal alien. And this is what our judge did in Massachusetts.
Our guest, our panelist, is Eric J. Caron. Eric is a retired special agent from the government. Eric, I don't have your complete bio here, but you were with the Department of Homeland Security. Does that mean it said Treasury, so I assume that's Secret Service?
So I was with Treasury, U.S. Customs Service at the time.
Okay.
And I served with Interpol for some time, and then Homeland Security, 25 years, mostly doing international crime, served overseas and domestically targeting transnational criminals involved in drugs and child porn, human trafficking, as well as arms trafficking, specifically the Iranians and their WGMD program, trying to prevent them from gathering weapons of mass destruction here in the U.S. to take back to Iran.
Let's ask our panelist, Ken Abramovitz. Ken, the big worry is that Iran will eventually achieve their nuclear weapon that they've been working on. What does Israel do then? Because obviously John Kerry has been trying to help the Iranians. We know the Biden regime is trying to help the Iranians. We talked earlier about Iranian agents working at the Department of Defense, working for the Biden regime. This is known throughout in the intel agencies in Washington, and yet the Iranians appear at this point to have a clear course to get that nuclear weapon. And of course, the Biden regime has given them, $36 billion to continue their proxy wars and to develop their nuclear arsenal. What say you, Ken?
The days are numbered for the Iranian criminal organization, Islamo-Nazi Death Cult. Within 3 to 6 months, Israel's going to blow up all the important military sites in Iran. Israel has no choice. Iran's promised to kill everyone in Israel. They've also promised to kill everyone in America.
That's right.
America refuses to protect the American public. So basically, Israel is going to protect America from the rogue regime that we currently have running the country.
Ken Abramovitz, the author of The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Ken is the founder of SaveTheWest.com, a website dedicated to saving Western civilization from itself. Ken, if you could leave our viewers this morning a thought that they should keep in mind as we are 11 days from the election and how much we are under threat from the Democrat Communist Party as well, what would it be?
The key thought would be, we the people, we Republicans, believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 100% of the population. The Democrat communists believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 10% of the population. In other words, the elite. This is an election of we the people versus they the elite, and I'm going to bet on we the people.
I like your optimism there, Ken. You weren't too optimistic in the beginning of our discussion, but I like your optimism. Let me ask Eric J. Caron, the author of Switched On, The Heart and Mind of a Special Agent. Eric, what would you like to leave us with as we are now 11 days from Election Day with voters here in Delaware, where I sit, and Maryland, where we're broadcasting also terrestrial radio, have started early voting yesterday. What are your thoughts? What can you leave us with this morning?
Well, thank you for having me. You know, we learned the hard way on 9/11 that the number one job of the president is to keep our butts safe. That government, our government, failed us on 9/11, quite frankly, and so we have to understand that elections matter, and we want a strong president, and the only choice for me is Donald J. Trump, in that he is a strong individual, both heart, mind, and soul, and he will keep our butts safe. And that's what's the most important job of a president. Not trade, not anything else, but to keep us safe. And we've lost our way, for sure, these last 4 years.
Eric J. Karen. Eric, I'd love to have you back on the panel again at some point. You as well, Ken. Eric J. Karen, Ken Abramovitz, thank you. An outstanding discussion this morning. Let's do it again very soon.
God bless.
Whenever you want.
Thank you. You're listening to You Talk America, more of our digital interactive broadcast. Your questions as well. Stay tuned for that.
Here is the marine forecast from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center. A small craft advisory continues. Sunny with highs topping out near 64 degrees today. And on the water, winds west-northwesterly 5 to 10 knots, seas 4 to 5 feet. The current water temperature is 63 degrees. At Cambridge, high tide at 11:27 a.m., low tide at 5:54 p.m. And at Rehoboth Beach, low tide 8:50 a.m., high tide 3:32 p.m.
Hi, this is the Rehoboth Foodie. Join me on Saturday afternoons from 2 to 4 on WGMD 92.7, the talk, or rather, the food of Delmarva.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Maria Bartiromo, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks opened higher. Earnings are again coming in stronger than forecast. Colgate-Palmolive's quarter topped expectations. It sold more products, even though prices were higher, though the stock opened down 2%. Tapestry, parent of Coach and Capri, which makes the Michael Kors brand, say they will appeal a federal judge's ruling blocking their merger. Tapestry shares opened 10% higher. Capri down 45%. Deckers Outdoor shares up nearly 11%. Sales of its Hoka shoes up 35% in the summer quarter from a year ago. Deckers quarter top forecast and also its raised estimates for the year. AutoNation says sales slumped in the summer quarter. AutoNation shares opened down 1%. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jim Posola, invested in you.
As Cybersecurity Awareness Month winds down, LifeLock reminds you to update your software regularly. These updates fix security flaws that could be exploited by identity thieves, but don't stop there. LifeLock offers comprehensive identity theft protection that goes the extra mile. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious use of your info, but also takes action to resolve identity theft issues, guaranteed, or your money back. Start your 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
As a family member or friend, you may be the first to notice when a veteran you love has been going through changes. Things like withdrawing, drinking more, or increased anger could be a sign of a larger health concern. But help is available. Listen to hundreds of inspiring stories at maketheconnection.net and learn how you can support the veterans in your life. Treatment works. Recovery is possible.
You're listening to and watching YourNewsTalk.com. We are digital, interactive, and loving it today. Make sure you sign on to RealNewsTalk.com to become a producer, as so many of you have. And if you had signed on last week and submitted questions for Ken Cuccinelli last week, those questions were put aside in a folder in your notes, so you can actually put them back up again. Right now, I see that's only one question sitting up there. We're waiting for Ken to sign on, but there were a whole bunch of questions from last week. So if you want those questions asked of Ken Cuccinelli, please, I beg of you, go on to realnewstalk.com and put those questions back in. I can't do it. I don't have the ability to do it. That is specific to your account, if I may say so. Now, you had heard earlier this morning, I just played a few moments ago, the cut of Hillary Clinton saying on the Clinton News Network yesterday that Donald Trump is recreating the 1939 Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. And that is a bunch of garbage. Now, I received a message today from our good friend Jonathan Feldstein in Israel, who asked me if Trump was going to be charging for admission into Madison Square Garden, saying that there's rumors going around in Israel that Trump is looking at pulling in about $10 million from this rally. That wasn't true. It was a lie. And it was more lies from the people who were trying to hurt Trump. Now, from a voter's perspective, and I know that many of you watching and listening have already voted. You voted early. Did any of this Nazi talk, Hitler talk, did it affect how you voted? Probably not. I think people are just sick of hearing it, and it doesn't even register with them anymore. So that is something that voters who, as they go to the polls, whether it's today, tomorrow, or November 5th, 11 days from now, will have to contend with. Does this talk of Nazism and the Jewish vote, is the Jewish vote going to be affected? I just don't see it. I just think that it's more of the same. You know, the Atlantic crowd who has tried this. Trump is Hitler, Mussolini, and who else? All rolled into one. It's just Stalin. All rolled into one. And it's nothing but poppycock and boulder dash. But the fact of the matter is, my friends, there are those who are trying to create more disturbances, and it's going to create security issues for the NYPD on Sunday at Madison Square Garden in New York. Now, I'd like to welcome in Ken Cuccinelli is joining us, and Ken, was so good to have you on the broadcast. Ken is the chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. Ken served in the federal government first as the acting director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and then as acting deputy secretary for the Department of Homeland Security. During his tenure, Ken was a leading spokesman for the administration on immigration, election security, and homeland security issues, and was appointed by the president to serve as an original member of the coronavirus task force upon the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition to practicing law for over 25 years, Cuccinelli served in state government in the Virginia Senate from 2002 to 2010, and as Virginia's Attorney General from 2010 to 2014. Ken, I did not know you had a mechanical engineering degree. What are you doing in politics?
Yes, I messed that one up, didn't I? I tell people that before I went to the dark side and went to law school, I was an engineer. So I ended up doing about 4 years. Well, it was more than 4 years. I did patent law for a while, in addition to the other types of litigation, but obviously highly technical. So I used it there in the law, and it was fun in the Senate to have the Department of Transportation people come in and be sort of this and that and the dirt and the curb. And
ooh, you could tell when they were BSing you, huh?
I dropped some technical questions, and it was a little bit of a
very interesting. So they couldn't pull the wool over your eyes, Ken.
Not on all of it, for sure. And they were, they had to actually be prepared on a technical basis. So that was good too. So
Ken,
good background.
Many of us are worried about election integrity this year.
Me too.
You have been working on this. I think the first time I had you on the show was maybe 2021. Is that right? Can that be possible?
Yeah.
So where do we stand 11 days from Election Day? I know here where I sit in Delaware, early voting begins today. The old line state in Maryland, it began yesterday. Where do we stand with election transparency 11 days before November 5th, Ken?
So as a nation, I give us a D grade on the 2020 election. So our fellow Americans have paid so much attention to that election cycle, and for good reason. Let's use that as the baseline. I think we have improved probably to a C plus or B minus as a country.
Okay.
There are some states that have improved more than others. There's some that have gotten worse. Michigan has gotten worse.
Really?
Substantially worse. But virtually all of the other swing states have improved to one degree or another. So on balance, just if you look at the swing states, we are much better off. There are also just some balancing elements left to right that have occurred that aren't state specific. The left has built up for 20 years, goes back to 2004, the Blue Colorado Project. In 2004, they began to build up infrastructure in the election process as well as litigation capacity. So they sue circles around us, and every dispute is resolved in the courts. So their preponderant power in that space has real effects on the outcome. Look at the Minnesota race where Al Franken stole it from Norm Coleman. And, that was one of the great accomplishments of their investments, including in secretaries of state, because that secretary of state changed the law during the recount that changed the outcome. And so we just got on that bandwagon on the right since 2020. So we're playing catch up. We have not caught them in litigation capacity, but we have closed the gap. We've reduced their advantage there such that, and this is the only positive thing I've ever had to say about the Republican National Committee in my entire life. But since 2020, they have gone on offense legitimately, not crazy style.
Right.
Offense on the litigation arena to fix problems before they surface in elections. And that is so important. It has been such a valuable part of the left strategy. They've reshaped elections via their litigation without a lot of pushback from the Republicans. And that is now a real part of the landscape. They've filed over 100 lawsuits since 2020. And that's a very, very good thing. In our American system is adversarial. It counts on, battle from both sides to lead to the truth. And this is a very similar aspect of it. So that's a big change. We've also been recruiting and training just ordinary citizens to become election officials. There are more Democrats inside running the elections than Republicans. More people left of center than right of center. Those two are not always the same thing. We have put an election transparency initiative. We've put a lot of effort into recruiting people to become trained election officials, to go in and run the election. You have concerns about election security? Go be an election officer. Everybody listening to you and I can do this where they live. Everyone, because every local government hires their own citizens to run the election.
Ken Cuccinelli is joining us, chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. Ken, Republicans in greater numbers than ever before are voting early this year. What does that do for election integrity for the 2024 election?
So the more balance you have at more points of the process, the safer the process is. I'll give you an example, very extreme example. If you wanted to cheat in a simple way, you were willing to dump ballots. Well, if you're a Democrat, you're not going to dump Philadelphia ballots because they're 90-10 Democrat.
Right.
You're going to go to a Republican county and do that. Or you might, if you're a Republican cheater and you wanted to dump ballots, you might dump early votes because the Democrats are so preponderant there. Well, they're not preponderant there anymore because of what you just described. That also, by the way, gives Republicans, no one can go vote your name. In the states, particularly that don't require voter ID, that's a possibility. That can happen.
Absolutely.
And it does happen. I have to say, I find it fairly delicious when it happens to like Soros prosecutors, which I've seen also happen. So they show up to vote and someone had already voted their name.
I love it. And the system that George Soros helped to fund is coming back and biting them in the you-know-what. I love it. I love it. Ken, I have a question from one of our producers on our dial board here, and Bob asks, why are so many judges crooked in the U.S. now and do not follow the U.S. and or state constitutions? It is so disgusting to see this happening. What is the best way to rein in crooked judges as soon as possible? Well, Ken, how many lawsuits have been filed? I'm just going to give you Pennsylvania for an example, where it was blatant and judges just don't want to hear it. What say you?
Yeah, so judges don't want, they don't want to be in these cases. Prosecutors don't want to prosecute them. I was obviously an attorney general.
Right.
They find the idea of prosecuting one single voter fraud instance annoying and frustrating, and they feel like they're being used as part of a narrative. Well, the reality is what was described as crooked judges is just one reflection of the narrative the left has successfully set up.
Right.
Judges have bought into it. So has the legal profession, that you just rubber stamp everything all along the line. There's no place for exercising judgment or questioning. And look, I argued 4 cases as attorney general. 2 of them were exoneration cases. That means we screwed up. That means we messed up, by which I mean I was arguing to get people unconvicted because our system messed up. We have the best country in the world. We have the best system in the world, but another way to look at it is we have the least bad system in the world. It was designed by humans. It's run by humans. We are going to make lots of mistakes, and there will always be people who will try to cheat. They'll be the minority on the problem area, but they're a serious one because they can target where that cheating might have the most effect because they have a brain, right? And error.
You would hope. You would hope they have a brain, Ken.
Yes, you would hope. Actually, I might hope they didn't, but make it easier to catch. But error is random. Fraud is targeted.
Yep.
And, the system, that's why we fight so hard for things like voter ID. Because, yes, you might be able to create one fake ID or something, but doing that at scale is very difficult. It's very difficult. And it's why voter ID is so valuable for security. And I understand that there are people who are concerned that, poor people don't have the backup documentation to even get the ID.
I'm so sick of hearing that, Ken, aren't you? I mean, you're disenfranchising people, that black voters that can't get a photo ID. I mean, the Demcoms have been, that's what I call them. They've been saying this for 40 years, haven't they?
Well, certainly the any effort at reform being racist dates back at least to the Bush v. Gore, post-Bush v. Gore reforms that started to take place. And let's face it, one of the reasons Florida runs some of the best elections in the country is because after Bush v. Gore, they said, wow, we stink. This is terrible. We have to fix this. And we're Americans. We fix problems. And they said about it for years. They fired people that needed to be fired. They changed laws that needed to be changed. They cleaned up their systems. And now the 3rd largest state is going to, they will report their results accurately by 8 o'clock election night. And they're the 3rd largest state. That is really, really impressive. And Ron DeSantis has taken it further steps, from the left 2020. They have the first and maybe still only election integrity unit in the country. So, they've taken steps others haven't. We can do that. We're at Election Transparency Initiative. We're trying to get those kinds of changes in every single state. And we've had some success. That's why I say we've gone from a D in 2020 up to about a C+, B-. We have a lot more work to do, but people can be comfortable that if you and I were talking 11 days before 2020, things would not have been anywhere near as reasonable and safe as they are today.
Well, I'm any improvement whatsoever is welcome. Ken Cuccinelli is joining us. Ken is the chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. We'll be back to talk to Ken. I want to ask him what he thinks of what Governor Youngkin, his governor in his home state, has done with respect to the DOJ trying to interfere in the election in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We'll talk about that with Ken. Another question from our producers in just a moment. Please stay with us. Your News Talk America, digital and interactive.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Ample sunshine expected today with daytime highs approaching 68. Winds out of the northwest, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows level off around 52 tonight, partly cloudy skies. Highs level off around 70 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Daytime highs approaching 60 Sunday under mainly sunny skies. 63 Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Right now, 52.
92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, where the news comes first. Delmarva's Choice, WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
After 32 years of failed single-party rule, Delaware students have been left behind. Despite being among the most well-funded in the country, Delaware schools rank second to the last. For years, one party has thrown money at the problem without addressing the root cause. I'm Mike Ramone, and I know Delaware students deserve better. As a father and a grandfather, a coach and a mentor to young people, I know that ranking near last in education is unacceptable. That's why I will focus on reconfiguring our educational system, supporting our teachers, and getting more money into the classroom where it belongs. I will be the education governor. I have the experience needed to fix Delaware schools, to put students and teachers first, and set Delaware children up for success once more. It's time for big change, for a better future. Vote Mike Ramone for governor. I'm Mike Ramone, and I approve this message.
Dr. Michelle Parsons here. Here at Rehoboth Medical Spa, we have been treating our patients with a new class of medications for weight loss, including Saxenda, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. All of these prescription medications have been extremely effective at curbing appetite and helping our patients easily lose pounds that they have not been able to lose before at affordable prices. We make it easier for you to lose weight and improve your health. Book your free consultation today at 302-227-1079. Rehoboth Medical Spa, where the doctor is the difference.
Rehoboth. Based on hundreds of five-star reviews, Gun Shooter Enterprises is proud to be rated by Delaware locals as their favorite gun shop. When you walk through the door at Gun Shooter Enterprises in Millsboro, you'll be met with a knowledgeable staff and respect. Customers love the transparent pricing of new and used inventory, the in-house experienced repair team, and the firearms training classes. Visit them in downtown Millsboro with plenty of free public parking at gunshooter.com or call 302-663-0838.
This is your Sussex County Councilman, Mark Schaefer. We all struggle to find doctors. I am proud to have worked with my fellow council members to build a medical school here in Sussex County. This medical school will bring more doctors to our community. If you have questions, visit my website, schaeferforsussex.com. I will always fight to find solutions and ask for your vote early and on November 5th. Please vote Mark Schaefer, Sussex County Council.
Paid for by Schaefer for Sussex.
This is State Representative Rich Collins. Thank you for allowing me to serve the 41st District in the Delaware House. With your support this election, I will continue defending freedom of speech, religious liberty, and the Second Amendment. I will also continue to vote against all tax increases, electric vehicle mandates, offshore windmills, boys playing girls sports, and COVID vaccine mandates. Early voting has begun, so today is a great day to cast your vote.
Paid for by friends of Rich Collins.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Back with Ken Cuccinelli. Ken is the chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. Ken, one of our producers, Eric, asks if you feel that most voters have already made their choice in America for which candidate. How can you be undecided at this point? I don't know, but do you think there are many undecideds?
So first of all, it's important for people like you and me to remember that we are in the tail end of the bell curve in political attentiveness. And ordinary Americans really just want to live their lives. And so that's where your undecideds come from. There are people who don't pay close attention until they're turning around and getting ready to vote. So And as we're seeing both Harris try to poach Republicans and Trump has been long time going after traditional Democrat voters.
Right.
You see them both trying to sort of raid each other's voting pools.
That's a great point.
And so even the same, if you saw it 48-48 this week and 48-48 last week, it's a different 48. So the people are shifting within those base coalitions. And one of the things I'm proud of Donald Trump on is how much he values getting a traditional, by Republican standards, votes. I can tell you from personal conversations how proud he was of getting Black unemployment low, of getting Hispanic unemployment low. And a lot of people don't realize that we all know his economy was great at the end of 2019 before COVID hit. But a lot of people don't know that he actually achieved the lowest poverty rate in the history of that statistic. And that's been going on as long as you and I have been alive. He also had more months under 8% Black unemployment than my entire life prior to that combined. There are real life bases for Donald Trump to go after traditional Democrat voters that just are because it was better for their life when he was in leadership.
And that's where he can say, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Ken, we're running up against the clock, but one of our producers, Big Cat, is worried about Democrat state-run governors and their propensity for interfering in with fair and free elections. What say you about that?
Yeah, so I am not a fan of the Federal Electoral Count Act. I don't believe it's constitutional because I think the states decide the president, not Congress. Nonetheless, that it puts boundaries around what those governors can do. If you're worried about
Ken, I'm sorry, I've got to end it right there. We've got to end it. It's better than it was. That's all we need to know. Ken Cuccinelli, thank you so much.
Voted early. 4 more states will allow that in person tomorrow, including Michigan, where former President Trump will rally tonight after going to Austin, Texas.
He's going to sit down with Joe Rogan for a podcast interview on Spotify, which should reach millions of voters, especially with young men, where Trump has been having a lead. Vice President Harris turned down the opportunity to speak with Rogan.
Fox's Mark Meredith in Traverse City, Michigan.
One thing we are going to hear from Trump today a lot about is about immigration while he's in Texas, and he's going to campaign with Texas Senator Ted Cruz while down there.
Well, despite Texas not being a battleground state, Vice President Harris will also go there today, with a big focus on abortion rights. But Fox's Jackie Heinrich reports from Houston.
Most voters who feel strongly about abortion have already made up their minds about who they're supporting the election, making pretty clear that Harris's strategy in this final stretch is less about pulling in undecided voters than mobilizing the base. In fact, ahead of her trip to this border state, Harris dodged answering how she would handle a top issue for undecided voters: immigration.
Next Tuesday, a week before Election Day, Vice President Harris will hold a campaign event in Washington at the site of the Trump speech, January 6, 2021, just before the Capitol riot. And nearly 4 years later, 2 New York brothers have been arrested, joining hundreds of others prosecuted. They face felony disorder and assault charges.
Federal prosecutors say Reynold Voisin was seen attacking officers with a crutch, stolen police riot shield, and a blue pole, seen beating and dragging an officer in one of the day's most violent assaults. Roger Voisin carried a two-way radio and GoPro camera on a stick, accused of attacking officers with a pipe and a nail-studded wooden table leg.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. A federal judge has just sided with the Justice Department, blocking Republicans in Virginia trying to remove 1,600 people alleged to be non-citizens from voter rolls. On Wall Street, the NASDAQ surged to a new record high this morning. It's currently up 250 points. America's listening to Fox News.
If you're looking for a firearm, I just love and recommend highly Henry Repeating Arms. They make 200 models of rifles, shotguns, revolvers, and a wide variety of calibers and finishes. Plus, they have new releases all throughout the year. The best way to learn about Henry Firearms is to get their free catalog and check it out online or at home. Plus, you're going to get 2 free decals and a list of dealers where you live and a great newsletter. Go to henryusa.com, click on their free catalog button. It's in the upper right-hand corner. Henry uses old-world craftsmanship combined with cutting-edge technology to deliver reliability and accuracy that everybody can trust. They're easy to use and maintain. It makes them an excellent choice for personal and property defense, for hunting, for shooting sports, and for beginners. All made in America, or they won't be made at all. Remember, to order their free catalog, get free decals, henryusa, .com. That's henryusa.com. Free catalog and decals and a list of dealers where you are. You're going to
Delmarva's home for local news, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva.
This WGMD News Report is locally brought to you by the Cottage Cafe. Open daily at 11 a.m. Find the menu, specials, and fun event details at cottagecafe.com.
I'm Jerry Lademan in the Talk of Delmarva newsroom. The drought conditions have had a major impact on the corn and soybean crops in Delaware, with soybean yields running well below normal for full-season beans. For double crop beans after wheat and barley, those yields, if not irrigated, are going to be very low. Delaware Secretary of Agriculture Michael Scuse tells the Talk of Delmarva on top of that, producers are trying to get winter crops, wheat and barley, in the ground.
They're planting those crops basically in powder. The crops that I've seen planted so far are coming up spotty as best if they're on dry land and not where it's irrigated. So, it can be a double whammy for the producers if we don't get rain to get that crop germinated so that they can have a crop to harvest next June.
He says most irrigated corn yields are running 20 to 30 bushels below where they should be with the recent dry conditions and heat waves this past summer. AccuWeather says this is one of the driest months in Delaware's history. Early voting in Maryland started this weekend. It brought a lot of voters to the polls already. The state expects by November 5th, 75% of all voters will have cast their ballots. The state says early voting is a way for people to take part in the process at their own convenience. The polls in Maryland will be open until 8 p.m. every day until Thursday, October 31st. Now, we've got more on the election dates, times, and places in Maryland and Delaware. You can see that on our website.
WGMD AccuWeather.
Thunderstorm this afternoon, the high 75. Mostly cloudy tonight, 49 inland, 57 at the beach. Tomorrow, windy, times of clouds and sun and gusty winds. That and the low humidity and the dry brush will result in a high fire threat. There is that burn ban in effect across Delaware and several counties of Maryland. Tomorrow's high 68. Another sunny day. No rain in the forecast for Sunday. More on these and other stories, visit talkofdelmarva.com.
The Cottage Cafe in Bethany Beach is open every day at 11 a.m., serving delicious lunch and dinner at affordable prices. Stop in for our daily happy hour offered every day in the pub until 6 p.m. Happy hour offerings include great drink specials and some of the cottage's favorites at a discounted price, like their dune fries and fiery fingers. Select sandwiches, steamed shrimp, and other appetizers also on the happy hour menu every day until 6 p.m. Stop in at the Cottage Cafe and enjoy daily happy hour.
It's time for the 92.7 and 98.5 Talk of Delmarva Sports Report.
All right, good morning. We begin in the NBA this time around. The kickoff to the season continues for many teams, including locally. The Wizards last night hosting the defending champ, the Boston Celtics, who haven't missed a beat.
Right wing Jaylen Brown pulls back Capital One Arena logo. 8-second shot clock. Brown for three. Scores. 101-73 Celtics. Jordan Poole to Valanciunas. Center circle. Hands off to Poole. Back to Valanciunas. Trucks in the lane. Flips up a shot short off the rim. Rebound ricochets around. The Celtics, by the way, from three-point distance are 15 of 34. And now out front, Brown for three again. 104-73 at a timeout. Back-to-back threes by Jaylen Brown. 16 threes. You don't have to be a math major to figure out that's a problem.
No, indeed, you do not, Dave Johnson of the Washington Wizards Radio Network. The Wizards, they fall to the Boston Celtics 122-102. The Wizards shooting just 43% for the field, just 19% for three-point range. And the Celtics making 10 more three-pointers. Jordan Poole leading the way in the loss with 26 points. NHL action last night. The Devils fell to the Detroit Red Wings 5-3. It was the Rangers falling to the Florida Panthers 3-1. NFL Thursday night football last night between the Rams and the Vikings. Fox News Radio has a recap.
For the first time this season, the Rams are on a winning streak. The Rams defeated the Vikings 30-20 on Thursday Night Football, winning back-to-back games and moving to 3-4. Sean McVay's offense was aided by the return of two of their top playmakers. Puka Nacua, who had not played since Week 1, had 7 catches for 106 yards, while Cooper Kupp, playing for the first time since Week 2, had 5 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown. For the Vikings, they've now lost 2 straight games after starting the season with 5 consecutive victories. Joe Morgan, Fox News.
All right, to college football last night, top 25 action. Number 19 Pitt over Syracuse 41-13 in an ACC showdown. Pitt now 7-0 on the season. High school football last night, of the downstate teams in action, just one. Seaford fell to Polytech 28-7. In Maryland's Bayside Conference, Cambridge South Dorchester defeated Washington 42-0. The Vikings now 8-0 on the season. And to Major League Baseball tonight, Game 1 of the World Series. The Yankees on the road in L.A. taking on the Dodgers. First pitch at 8:08. The game is on Fox. Garrett Cole on the mound for the Yankees. Jack Flaherty on the mound for the Dodgers. Mike Bradley, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD Sports.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
This is Mark Schaefer, your Sussex County Councilman, appealing for your financial help to support our local fire and EMS departments. Our volunteer fire and EMS companies operate on donations. Your financial support is desperately needed and will be greatly appreciated. Please Google your local fire department and make a donation today. We need to support the wonderful men and women who volunteer their time to protect us. Please donate today. Thank you.
Digital Interactive Friday continues on your News Talk America. Thank you so much for tuning in today. To our producers, thank you so much for logging on to realnewstalk.com and getting your questions uploaded, as I think that every question that's been submitted by the producers this morning has been asked of our panelists, and I'm very proud of that. Thank you. And the fact is, my friends, that there's a lot being made of this statement that Hillary Rodham Clinton made, accusing President Trump of, for all intents and purposes, reenacting the 1939 Nazi rally at the old garden, the old Madison Square Garden, which was on Madison Avenue. There are actually three gardens. This was, I think, the second garden, which was the same garden that was used for John F. Kennedy's birthday party back in, was it 1962, I guess, 61 or 62, where Marilyn Monroe sang, "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." That's a little history of Madison Square Garden. But what the Demcoms are trying to do is just, again, try to demonize Trump. I believe that they are doing it for the reason that he is, or try to damage his ability to govern by just igniting the George Soros crowd that will start the rioting after the election results are announced on November 5th or whenever they're announced. Jeffrey Lord's going to be joining us in just a second. As a matter of fact, there's a Pennsylvania election official who's now saying, well, you know, we need to have patience. We're not going to have the results right away. How many times we heard that over the past couple of days? How can that be? If so many of the electorate is going out and voting early, if most of the votes are already going to be cast before November 5th, and it appears that's what it's going to be in this country right now, because Republicans are blowing up the old model where Republicans show up on Election Day and vote. So if that's the case, why are Pennsylvania election officials saying, oh, we need to have patience, we're not going to have the results? Jeffrey Lord, that sounds mighty fishy to me. You're in Pennsylvania. What did you think about that?
Fishy voting in Pennsylvania? I'm shocked. Shocked. You know, I did a survey of our problems in the past. And I found I'll throw out a few examples. In 1994, we had a special election for a vacant state Senate seat in Philadelphia. And the Republican candidate, somebody I know actually, he was a young lawyer in the day for Arlen Specter, Senator Arlen Specter. He was the Republican nominee, and he, quote unquote, lost the election to the son or relative of a Democratic official in Philadelphia.
What a surprise.
Well, he was smart enough to challenge the results.
Yeah.
And a federal judge got into this, looked at the results, overturned the election. They'd already seated the Democrat. He overturned the election, yanked the Democrat out, installed my friend Bruce Marks, and said that there was, and this was on the front page of the New York Times, there had been his words, not mine, massive scheme by Democrats to steal this election.
Really? Now, Jeffrey,
they
I
did
just
it
had
with absentee ballots.
I just had Jeff. I'm sorry. I was just going to say I had Ken Cuccinelli on before you came on, and Ken said today judges don't want to get involved in any election cases. That's the problem. They just would rather rubber stamp everything's okay. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think by and large that is correct. I think that's why you had all these judges not touching the 2020 election. They just didn't want to get near it. And I think that's a mistake, frankly. I mean, if you can't have an honest election and you can't have a federal judge who is there to root out the problem, if there is seen to be a problem, then you've got a problem with the judges.
No question about it. Our good friend Jeffrey Lord is joining us, former advisor to President Ronald Reagan, associate editor of the American Spectator, frequent contributor to Newsmax, and the host of the Word of the Lord podcast, and a very good friend to this radio program and to yours truly. Jeffrey, I sent you a bunch of topics that I wanted to talk about today, but it appears to me that the Senate election in Pennsylvania is starting to lean toward Dave McCormick. Am I seeing things, or does it appear that way? Because Casey, especially when he gets involved with sending a letter to McDonald's the day after Trump works at a McDonald's claiming that they're price gouging, man, I mean, Casey's campaign appears to be imploding like Kamala's. What say you, sir?
Yeah, they are having problems. There is no question. And Dave is surging and has been surging. There are polls out now that have shown him to be either even with Bob Casey or even a point or two ahead. And I had to laugh.
What's that?
I had to laugh. The Wall Street Journal has an editorial in which it says that, the Democrats are out there comparing Trump to Hitler.
Oh, my gosh.
And yet, interestingly, there are some Democratic Senate candidates, and Bob Casey is one, who are glomming on to Trump and saying that they agree with him on A, B, or C.
Yeah, on some things,
the
right.
The journal is, in essence, saying, so they agree with Hitler? Is that how this works?
Boy, that's a dual-edged sword right there, isn't it, Jeffrey?
It is indeed. It is indeed. So we will see how this goes. But yeah, Pennsylvania has a real possibility of voting both for President Trump and for Dave McCormick.
Now, the firefighters union in Philadelphia normally would endorse a Democrat candidate for Senate. Not this time. They endorsed Dave McCormick. How significant an endorsement is that?
Yeah, it's very significant. Both for the symbolism of it, and for voting in Philadelphia. In Pennsylvania politics, the deal always is that Republicans have to overcome the Democratic lead in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh.
That's something that Mitt Romney was not able to accomplish, right, Jeffrey?
That is correct. It's a difficult thing for most Republican candidates. And then you make it up where I live in central Pennsylvania, and what we call in Pennsylvania the T. And the T begins on the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, goes straight up through the middle of the state, and then goes left and right to northwest to Erie and northeast to Scranton and Wilkes-Barre. And those areas are, in fact, more conservative, and they tend to vote Republican. The question always is turnout. Are you making up for votes? Now, in this case, when you've got the firefighters union doing this, what that does, it's not that it's going to carry Philadelphia for Republicans. What it is going to do, though, is decrease the Democratic vote in Philadelphia. And if you manage to decrease the Democratic vote in Philadelphia and increase the Republican vote in central Pennsylvania, then you can win an election here. And that has happened before.
So that's the blueprint for a Republican victory in Pennsylvania, Jeffrey, is what you're saying?
Yes, that is it. It doesn't matter who the candidate is or what the office is, or that's how the deal works in our state.
One of our producers, Eric, is asking about early voting and mentioning early voting. what's the general consensus of early voting in Pennsylvania? Now, all across the country, Republicans are voting early like never before. The Democrats are panicking, Jeffrey. What's it like in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, the other night, just this week, I went out to Clarion County to give a speech to the Clarion County Republican Party. And Clarion County, for your listeners, is in northwestern Pennsylvania, not far from Erie County. And wow, they are ginned up, and they were telling me exactly that the number of Republican, in terms of support for early voting and turning out and all of this is really on fire out there in good old Clarion County. Now, Clarion County is, of course, a rural county, but that's what makes it a player in the T, because if you've got that kind of activity going on in just one rural Pennsylvania county, where else is this happening? And I think the answer is it's happening a lot.
Jeffrey, absentee ballots, are states like Pennsylvania allowed to open those ballots before Election Day? I don't believe so.
I don't think they can. I think you have to wait till Election Day. Yeah.
Right. All right. Jeffrey, stand by. We've got to take a quick break here on Your News Talk America. I want to ask you your opinion about President Trump's appearance working at McDonald's last Saturday. It sent Marxist state media into a frenzy. Let's talk about how important a campaign stop it was for President Trump to work under the golden arches for a couple of hours in just a moment. Stay with us. We'll be back with our good friend Jeffrey Lord in just a moment.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 68. West winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight. Lows dip down to about 52. Daytime highs approaching 70 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Daytime highs approaching 60 Sunday under mainly clear skies. 64 Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center. Inland. Currently 54.
The Wendy Bell Show, Sunday, noon to 3 on 98.5, The Talk of Delmarva. You're listening to WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD.
This is your Sussex County Councilman, Mark Schaefer. Sussex County is in the process of a court-ordered property reassessment. This may increase our property taxes. This will directly impact us financially and cause our seniors on fixed incomes a serious problem. The state of Delaware recognized this problem years ago and provided seniors a $500 credit on their school taxes. When you send me back to represent you, the first initiative I will support and work for will be to enact a law that provides all seniors 65 years and older and who have owned their homes for more than 5 years a one-time 10% credit on their new tax bill for the first year. This is a fair way to protect our seniors. Please vote Mark Schaefer for Sussex County Council early and on November 5th.
Paid for by Schaefer for Sussex.
Every day, Cintas service reps help businesses get ready for the workday. They provide freshly laundered workwear delivered every week. Mats, mops, restroom and cleaning supplies. First aid and safety products to help your employees stay safe. They even test and inspect fire extinguishers and emergency lights. Cintas helps keep your business running smoothly. See what Cintas can do for you. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
I was so excited when I heard the sandwich was back. What's up? This is Mike.
And this is Celia.
And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich
is the symphony of flavors. You can always count on that crispy, tender, juicy chicken. It's so good.
My favorite part is the pimento cheese. Topped off with the honey, it all comes together perfectly. I like the original.
I like the spicy chicken fillet. But either way,
you're getting a winner.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy fillet now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
The
This is State Representative Rich Collins. Thank you for allowing me to serve the 41st District in the Delaware House. With your support this election, I will continue defending freedom of speech, religious liberty, and the Second Amendment. I will also continue to vote against all tax increases, electric vehicle mandates, offshore windmills, boys playing girls sports, and COVID vaccine mandates. Early voting has begun, so today is a great day to cast your vote.
Paid for by friends of Rich Collins.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
My friends, make sure that you tune into the Word of the Lord podcast, hosted by our good friend Jeffrey Lord. Jeffrey, do you have a hit booked on Newsmax this weekend? I'm wondering if you're going to be doing the big Trump rally at MSG on Sunday.
Well, somewhere in the 2 o'clock hour, I think, on Saturday.
Okay.
So, you never know how these things go with the rallies and all that kind of thing. They're sort of elastic, and I always joke to the Newsmax people that every time I'm ready to go on, Donald Trump steals my airtime, and I've got to talk to him about this.
Jeffrey, I'm sure you've seen the footage from CNN, Caitlin Collins' interview with Hillary Rotten Clinton yesterday, claiming that Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden is going to be a recreation of the big Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden in 1939. What are your thoughts about what the deplorable one said, comparing Trump again to Hitler and his supporters are nothing but neo-Nazis, that kind of thing?
So all of these Senate candidates, as mentioned, including our own Bob Casey here in Pennsylvania, running ads now trying to associate themselves with this, that, or the other thing that Donald Trump talks about. Apparently, according to Hillary Clinton, they're wannabe Hitler supporters.
There you go.
I find this very interesting. And something I learned from you, I did not realize, and I knew about the event, President Kennedy's birthday party. Wow, is that the one with Marilyn Monroe?
That's the one. Yeah, that was at the previous Madison Square Garden. This one opened in 1968. This was the previous garden, so that's where that was held.
Still and all, and for your listeners who would not be familiar with that, so it was JFK's birthday. He is the sitting president of the United States, and Marilyn Monroe appears dressed in this unbelievably sexy gown.
All sequined.
And then proceeds to sing happy birthday, and I'll imitate it. It goes something like this. Happy birthday.
Yes, and Jackie wasn't too happy. She was sitting in the front row, not happy at all. And that was set up, by the way, by President Kennedy's brother-in-law, Peter Lawford. He set that whole thing up.
He was an actor, and he was part of the so-called Rat Pack, which was Frank Sinatra and Peter Lawford and Joey.
Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. was part of the Rat Pack.
Yeah, it was quite the thing. So this was very notorious in the day because you just didn't do this kind of thing. And then JFK stands up and with a self-deprecating smile says,
he was that was one of the best moments of his presidency. When he called her a good, wholesome American girl or something like that.
It was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Well, let me just read you one paragraph from a story that has made the Epoch Times.
Yeah.
And it's a dateline Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is about 45 minutes from here where I went to college. And it reads, Nazir Mbami is a 17-year-old black man and Army National Guard recruit who will turn 18 by Election Day. On October 20th, he donned a red Make America Great hat and attended a town hall event with former President Donald Trump in Lancaster, pledging to cast his first ever vote for the Republican presidential nominee in this year's election, unquote.
Wow.
And then it goes on at length about other Pennsylvanians who are voting for Trump and why and all of this kind of thing. I think that is very interesting, and it might be a little tip as to where we're headed here.
Well, Jeffrey, I have to give Fox credit. They have been doing town halls at barber shops. They did one in the Bronx. I don't know if you saw it. They did one in Atlanta. I guess it was Atlanta just a couple of days ago. And
I saw the
boy,
one with Lawrence Jones. Yeah.
was that, and the information and the way that you hear these black men say that, you know what, I've been a Democrat my whole life. I voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for him in 2020. I voted for him I'm going to vote for him again in 2024. But you just mentioned how many African Americans are voting for Trump the first time this year.
Well, you know, what's interesting, I think, is that Trump has made a real explicit effort to appeal not
to
just
reach out
to black Americans, but working Americans. Hence the stop at McDonald's the other day. And I had to laugh.
Well, how important? I think it was a coup as far as campaign stops are concerned.
Yes.
Your thoughts, Jeffrey?
I agree. And I had to laugh because they had somebody there who was teaching him how to flip French fries. Well, long ago in my past, I worked one summer when I was working my way through college.
Okay.
And I had the summer off. I had a just summer job. And it was at an outfit called the Red Barn, which was exactly like McDonald's. And yes, indeed, I was in charge of flipping the French fries.
Just like Kamala.
I mean, This brought back all sorts of memories, you know, and it's not as easy as it looks because that oil is extremely hot. You got to heat the thing up.
I worked at Hardee's, Jeffrey. I poured the oil one day on my hand by mistake. I still got the scar on my, oh my gosh, I have never had a burn like that.
I'm sure. So to watch him do it, which I had to do all the time, wow, that was impressive.
But he had the hat, he had the tie on, and the the red tie with the apron, and then the people coming up, President Trump, I'm from Brazil. Please don't let this country turn into Brazil. Man, I know the Demcom say these were setups. I mean, their events are setups as well. Remember that restaurant in Pittsburgh where Kamala the Commie and her people came in and kicked out the restaurant patrons a few months ago? But J.D. Vance came there and they kicked him out. We remember those.
What's really going on here, Jake?
Yeah.
And I think it's very significant. You know, the Republican Party used to be seen as the country club party, as it were. And beginning with President Reagan, it has become the working class blue collar.
Reagan started it, absolutely. Reagan started it.
They used to call them the Reagan Democrats.
Yep.
And they were all these auto workers in the Detroit area and in Michigan, et cetera. And of course, he carried Michigan.
Yep.
And this sort of revolution and change, the Democrats are now the party of hedge funders and movie stars, you know, rich movie stars.
That's right, Joe. You're right,
so
Jeffrey.
I think it's very interesting, and you know, thank goodness for Donald Trump because I think we're in the right place.
I've been getting emails from my radio listeners here in Delaware today. Early voting starts here in the first socialist state, Delaware, and the crowds are incredible. People are taking pictures and sending me, Jeffrey. Republicans, for the first time in our history, are voting early. They're not waiting for Election Day. So do you feel that this early voting is benefiting Republicans based on the numbers that we have seen already?
Yeah,
Thank you, Eric.
I think it is. I laughingly always recall the motto from Philadelphia, vote early and vote often. But I do think that this voting early has an impact. And I noticed Mark Halperin, who is America's top pollsters, who is also a Newsmax contributor, was saying the other day that he thinks that this election could be known by Election Day because of the early
voting. So why are so many, including in your own state in Pennsylvania, saying, "Oh, you're going to have to wait a few days. It's going to be 5 days before we know who won this election." When Reagan won, we knew by what, 8:30, Jeffrey?
You know,
was it 8:30?
It was actually before then, and I can tell you, I remember this vividly. I had started working in Washington 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
But I came home. I lived here. My parents were here. I came home and went over to the Pennsylvania State Senate, where I had worked before I went to Washington. And I walk into the Senate Republican leader's office, and he is there. He's got the television on with NBC. It is 10 minutes after 8.
Yeah. Tom Brokaw made the announcement, right?
Reagan.
Yeah, it was Tom Brokaw who made the announcement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was Tom Brokaw who made the announcement.
Absolutely amazing. So we shall see.
Jeffrey, final question. A judge in Virginia has just ruled against Governor Youngkin in purging illegals off the state voter rolls. Where are these judges getting these decisions? It's incredible. He told Youngkin, no, you can't remove illegals off the voter rolls. What, are you kidding me?
It blows my mind that Democrats so deliberately want to have people who are not qualified to vote voting, whether it's illegals or somebody who's not registered. You know, this isn't hard. All you have to do, you know, here in Pennsylvania, we have a state store system that sells liquor. And a few years ago, we broke with this tradition, and legislation was passed to allow grocery stores to sell booze. Well, when you go into the local Giant here and you want to buy a bottle of wine, what do you have to do? You have to present
ID.
ID.
Right.
And you're telling me that you got to do it to buy a bottle of booze, but you don't have to do it to vote? Something is wrong there.
And the American people, I think, know that. Eric in Seaford, one of our producers, says, will this end up in the Supreme Court? And that's going to end up in the appellate court, the federal appellate court, Eric. That's where it's going to be. And he's saying the big lines in Delaware for early voting, it's like that everywhere. Republicans got the message that we could stop the steal if we voted early. Republicans have answered. President Trump has been out there first and foremost, Jeffrey, saying vote early, right?
Yes, he has. And he's been getting a lot of support in that from somebody we all know, Sean Hannity, who has been really tub thumping on that issue. And I think collectively, with all the support for it, it is taken off.
And you know what? I think the Democrats are in a panic right now over it. Their game plan was for us to vote on Election Day. They never thought we would come out early, and we have in droves. Jeffrey Lord, thank you so much for coming on. It's always wonderful to have a conversation with you, Jeffrey, and we'll be watching tomorrow afternoon on Newsmax.
Love doing it. Don't forget to vote.
That's right. Jeffrey, thank you. You're listening to Your News Talk America. We're going to be talking. Take my mic there. We're going to be talking to our good friend John O'Connor about the Department of Justice threatening us if we cause any trouble at the polling locations. That's coming up next.
Here is the marine forecast from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center. A small craft advisory continues. Sunny with highs topping out near 64 degrees today. And on the water, winds west-northwesterly 5 to 10 knots, seas 4 to 5 feet. The current water temperature is 63 degrees. At Cambridge, high tide at 11:27 a.m., low tide of 5:54 p.m. And at Rehoboth Beach, low tide 8:50 a.m., high tide 3:32 p.m.
Hi, this is the Rehoboth Foodie. Join me on Saturday afternoons from 2 to 4 on WGMD 92.7, the talk, or rather, the food of Delmarva.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Stuart Varney, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Americans are feeling a little better about the economy at the end of this month. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index rose to a reading of 70.5. Also, those surveyed are now more optimistic about inflation retreating. They see it moving down to 2.7% in a year. Intel says it will invest more than $28 billion to build 2 new factories in Licking County, Ohio that will build chips. Intel says the first phase of the project will create 3,000 jobs. Hospital operator HCA Healthcare says Hurricane Helene disrupted operations at some of its facilities in the recent quarter. Its earnings were disappointing. HCA expects earnings for the year to come in at the low end of its forecast. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola. Invested in you.
As Cybersecurity Awareness Month winds down, LifeLock reminds you to update your software regularly. These updates fix security flaws that could be exploited by identity thieves. But don't stop there. LifeLock offers comprehensive identity theft protection that goes the extra mile. LifeLock not only alerts you to suspicious use of your info, but also takes action to resolve identity theft issues, guaranteed, or your money back. Start your 30-day free trial at lifelock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Pennsylvania's Supreme Court has handed down an election ruling. The state's high court has ruled that voters will be able to cast provisional ballots in person at the polling place if and only if their mail-in ballots are rejected due to certain defects. Provisional voting is offered at in-person polling locations when there is a question raised about a person's eligibility to vote. A provisional vote is only counted after a person's eligibility to vote has been confirmed. This ruling comes after the Republican National Committee appealed a court ruling that had agreed with the American Civil Liberties Union of Pennsylvania. The state's ACLU represented Butler County residents who had sued after the county refused to count their provisional ballots in the 2024 primary. The impact of this new ruling, not clear. In previous elections, only about 2/3 of Pennsylvania counties have notified mail-in voters if there was an issue with their ballot before Election Day. Note that
Well, our thanks to Greta Van Susteren and The Record on Newsmax. My friends, that's one of the many stories out there about election integrity. But if you listen to Merrick Garland, if you go to a polling location and you cause any sort of trouble, the FBI is coming after you. Now, unfortunately, this enforcement is very troubling to me because I believe it's targeted towards Trump voters. I believe that it is voter intimidation on the part of the Department of Justice. And I want to ask one of my favorite people in the entire world. His name is John D. O'Connor. John is the author of the book, The Mysteries of Watergate, What Really Happened, and Postgate, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, Covered Up Watergate, and Began Today's Partisan Advocacy Journalism. That's the journalism today that has morphed into commie propaganda, in my estimation. John also hosts the Mysteries of Watergate podcast. John served as an assistant U.S. attorney in Northern California, representing the United States in both criminal and civil cases. John has been a good friend to this broadcast. John, as a former assistant U.S. attorney, what did you think about Merrick Garland targeting Trump voters with the announcement of the Election Threats Task Force enforced by the FBI?
Well, it's in so many things, Jeff. The world is turned upside down. When I was an assistant U.S. attorney, we went to polling places, but it was to protect the process, to keep people from being, to make sure that there was no hanky-panky there. This is a little bit different. The Justice Department knows that there's cheating going on, as in the last election. They know there's hanky-panky by the poll workers.
Yeah.
And they're afraid of Trump poll watchers who will call them on their fraud. That's really what it is.
So, John, you agree with me that this is targeted towards Trump voters, Trump supporters, Trump poll watchers, Trump checker challengers. That's who this is targeted toward, right?
Absolutely. And what they're going to threaten, Jake, is they're going to threaten that those poll watchers who are there to make the process fair, to keep the integrity, those are the people they're going to threaten with criminal prosecution. And maybe they'll start arresting people and saying, hey, you're interfering with the process,
right,
by trying to keep it clean. So everything is turned on its head with these folks.
John, your dad was an FBI agent. You are very close to the FBI. You're very, let's put it this way, you've always been very supportive of the FBI. Even when I've pushed back a little bit, you say, you know what, the FBI agents, out of the office, out on the street, they're good people. But the FBI agents are being asked to basically act as election brown shirts for party politics, correct?
Well, that's exactly what's happening. And remember, James Comey did politicize the Bureau quite a bit. Excuse me. So you will find that I think the people that they will select, the agents they will select to go out here, will be the ones that are more politicized. They know their numbers. They know the people there who are the straight FBI agents, and they'll get the people that are politicized and are willing to be, like you say, the brown shirts. I think this is a terrible, terrible development.
John, one of our producers, 3M, asks Congressman Jamie Raskin, who is consistently threatened to use the 14th Amendment to keep President Trump from being certified electorally on January 6th. Jamie Raskin seems to be working on ways to keep Trump out of the White House when he wins. Well, if he wins. Do you have any idea of his planned schemes? John, 14th Amendment, paragraph 3, Jamie Raskin keeps throwing that up in our face. It's all related to January 6th. What say you, sir?
Well, it's just a silly argument. I think it's ironic. I think Jamie Raskin was really raised in a communist family. I think that's the case. And, the guy is wild. And, of course, I think the whole idea is that somehow Trump committed treason and so forth by, comparing Trump to a Civil War Confederate,
right?
Who seceded from the Union and fought Union forces. By trying to keep the election clean and protesting the election, which used to be a liberal value, protest. So Trump is exercising his rights of free speech to protest what he thought was a stolen election.
That's right.
And in Jamie Raskin's view, that amounts to treason. Why is it treason? Because you're going against the party rule. And this is what's scary about it. It's party rule. It's the same thing you would expect from Joseph Stalin or Vladimir Putin. So that's the problem. That's the way people like Jamie Raskin see the world. I think he's probably sincere the way he views things. It's just too bad that there are people out there that are now, at least in part, running our country.
John, in the press release from the DOJ last week on this election threats task force, they said that there were rumors back in 2020 of problems, poll workers being threatened. Since when does the Department of Justice get the FBI involved on something that was rumored? There's been no convictions. There's been no crime statistics tracked by the FBI for this. So how does the DOJ do something like this, John?
Well, actually, the reports, if you really look at the reports fairly, the reports were that poll watchers were shut out last election. If you recall in Detroit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Didn't they could take pizza boxes and cover the glass up so people couldn't look inside the windows or something, John? Wasn't that the case?
Right. That's right. They obstructed the poll watching with the pizza boxes. They also kept them so far away that unless you had the eyes of an eagle, you couldn't see whether they're committing fraud. There were all kinds. And then, of course, they cleared the arena at 10:30 at night saying that
it's a plumbing emergency.
Emergency.
Right.
So it really is a terrible thing. And I think that might have been, it might have been, maybe I'm thinking about the Georgia workers that Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, that was the plumbing emergency was in Georgia. Yeah, that was.
That's right. And Rudy Giuliani is now losing all his property because these poor poll watchers were defamed by Rudy.
Yep.
Incredible. Things are upside down. This is Alice in Wonderland.
Our good friend John O'Connor is joining us, the author of the book, The Mysteries of Watergate, What Really Happened. John, a question from one of our producers in Dial, on our Dial system. His name is Big Cat, and he asks, could some bad actors such as Soros or others who interfere in elections be taken to court in red states at the state level to be held accountable for doing anything wrong? My guess is they wouldn't dare pull that in Florida because they would be arrested. John, what do you say?
First of all, I think Soros is smart enough and is investing his money in the places where his fraud will count. He's invested a lot of money in this election, as he did the last one, but he's not going to bother with the state that he's going to lose anyway, in a red state and where he couldn't really control the voting. But in blue states, especially, or I would say swing states, where you have the combination of red rural areas and then strong blue urban areas, that's the place that you can cheat and get away with it. And that's where he's going to concentrate his investment.
John, is early voting going on in the People's Republic of California right now?
Well, I think it is. But I got to say, I'm the least engaged person in California voting. I can't stand it. I mean, it's a one-party state. And look what happens. Look what happens when you have a one-party state. Most people agree. And these are people, my friends who are Democrats, that this is a terrible state. They just don't connect the fact that things are going poorly with the fact that it's the Democrats who are in control. I'm just stunned that no one makes that connection. But we have no chance of voting out Democrats in California. It's just impossible.
My friends, 2 great books to order. Someone, a friend or family member that loves politics, go to postgatebook.com, order both books, and I guarantee you that loved one who receives those books, authored by our good friend John O'Connor, will be very pleased. John, it's so good to see you again. Take care, my friend.
Good talking to you, Jay. See you
All
now.
right. All right. You're listening to your News Talk America. Salute the Troops coming up in just a moment. Stay with us.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 68. West winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight. Lows dip down to about 52. Daytime highs approaching 70 tomorrow. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Daytime highs approaching 60 Sunday under mainly clear skies. 64 Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Right now, it's 58 degrees.
Where Delmarva comes to talk, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD. Mike Bradley mornings on WGMD. News on the hour on WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
After 32 years of failed single-party rule, Delaware students have been left behind. Despite being among the most well-funded in the country, Delaware schools rank second to the last. For years, one party has thrown money at the problem without addressing the root cause. I'm Mike Ramone, and I know Delaware students deserve better. As a father and a grandfather, a coach and a mentor to young people, I know that ranking near last in education is unacceptable. That's why I will focus on reconfiguring our educational system, supporting our teachers, and getting more money into the classroom where it belongs. I will be the education governor. I have the experience needed to fix Delaware schools, to put students and teachers first, and set Delaware children up for success once more. It's time for big change, for a better future. Vote Mike Ramone for governor. I'm Mike Ramone, and I approve this message.
This is State Representative Rich Collins. Thank you for allowing me to serve the 41st District in the Delaware House. With your support this election, I will continue defending freedom of speech, religious liberty, and the Second Amendment. I will also continue to vote against all tax increases, electric vehicle mandates, offshore windmills, boys playing girls sports, and COVID vaccine mandates. Early voting has begun, so today is a great day to cast your vote.
Paid for by friends of Rich Collins.
At Bell House Medical, we're dedicated to enhancing the lives of aging adults and individuals with special needs. Our master grab bars are just the beginning. We specialize in adapting environments to foster independence, offering a variety of equipment designed to improve quality of life. I'm Steve Bell, here to serve those with reduced strength, balance, or mobility. Visit our showroom and medical supply store in Lewes, Delaware, or at mastergrabbar.com. Bell House Medical, your mobility partner.
Harbison Methodist Women will hold a craft fair on Saturday, November 9th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the church hall. There'll be a variety of local vendors with holiday and homemade items available, and the award-winning Smash Mouth food truck will be on hand. The church hall is located next to the Harbison Cemetery at the intersection of Routes 9 and 5. For more information, go to the community calendar under the Extras tab at thetalkofdelmarva.com. How do you see Delmarva? Busy boardwalk, a day at the beach, or riding on a trail? Send your shots of Delmarva to the Talk of Delmarva's Picture of the Day. Tell us your name, where you're from, and where on Delmarva the picture was taken, and send it to media at WGMD.com.
Salute the Troops is safely brought to you by your local gun tender, Stuart Jones at Delmarva Law Enforcement Supply. Salute the Troops honors the service to our nation of Pennsylvania Senate candidate Dave McCormick. Dave was nominated to the United States Military Academy by a Pennsylvania senator. He was the first cadet from Bloomsburg to attend West Point in decades. After graduating, Dave went on to serve in the 82nd Airborne Division as a paratrooper. He was deployed to the Middle East during the First Gulf War and received the Bronze Star for his service in Iraq before retiring with the rank of captain. Salute the Troops honors the service to our nation of Captain Dave McCormick, U.S. Army, retired. If not for his commitment to serve, if not for his service defending freedom and liberty while deployed in the Middle East, this nation could not, this nation would never have remained free. For Salute the Troops, I'm Jake Smith. Delmarva Law Enforcement Supply welcomes all, not just law enforcement. Visit and sit with Stuart to find the perfect custom firearm, ammo, apparel, gun safes, hunting gear, accessories, or to browse and find the perfect WeatherTech gear. Serving and saluting Delmarva for almost 2 decades. You can find them on Iron Branch Road in Dagsboro. Open Monday through Saturday. Just look for the banner that says Guns. Support your local gun tender today.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
You're listening to Your News Talk America as we wrap up Digital Interactive Friday. And a couple of things. First off, I'm looking at the statistics for questions that our producers posted for our panelists. 14 of those questions in the past 2 hours have been posed to our panelists. Thank you so much to our producers who have taken the time and put those questions up. It is an integral part of our Friday program, and I'm so pleased that you were able to do that. Now, a couple of things. I'm getting emails here where I stand or sit really behind the golden microphone at Digital Studio 2, Your News Talk America, from Delaware voters, Republican voters for the most part. The lines are incredible. Let me just say this. The response on the part of early voting here in Delaware has never been this big. Republicans are voting like never before. They have been instructed to, asked to, begged by President Trump in some cases. I know that chairs in the Republican Party, certainly here in Delaware, have urged Republican voters to vote early. Get that vote log so no one can steal your vote. That's what's happening. I'm getting sent pictures. The lines are, well, let's put it this way. The lines are encouraging. What wasn't encouraging was what our good friend John O'Connor said just a few moments ago from California. He's given up. People, even Democrats in California, have given up on the People's Republic. John is old enough, and so am I, to remember when California was the biggest Republican state in the Union. Look what the Demcoms have been able to accomplish. That's why so many Republicans are out in force today voting early to prevent it from happening here. John O'Connor is one of the biggest, most influential attorneys in this country. He was the attorney for Deep Throat of Watergate fame. He was Patty Hearst's attorney when she was kidnapped by the Symbionese Liberation Army and forced to become a bank robber. He represented Patricia Hearst. John O'Connor is no legal slouch, and yet you could hear in his voice he's just given up, and he knows so many others, Democrats, who have just given up. Those out in force today have not given up. And I'm so glad to see photographs of this and hear about this from, and where I am here in Delaware, from Dover, our state capital, all the way down to the southern part of the state. Lines are everywhere. They are just packed. I did get a call from someone who said, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm not going to stay. Boy, I hate seeing that. We have the most perfect weather here today in Delaware for you to vote. Take that opportunity. I know you don't want to wait online, but boy, please don't walk away from the polls. That's what the Demcoms want you to do. They want you to walk away from the polls. Let me just go to a few emails that I've received, and I'm sure this is happening in other parts of the country. These early votes, for the most part, my friends, are Republican votes. I told you yesterday on the radio show, the Demcoms are freaking out. This was not in their game plan for the 2024 election. They thought it was going to be, we're going to expect the red wave to show up on Election Day, November 5th, and they would know exactly how many votes they needed to cheat and to steal. That's not happening. It's not happening today. Now, what happened in Virginia with Governor Youngkin being slapped down by a federal judge who told Youngkin that he cannot purge the voter rolls of illegals, my friends, that is something that Virginia has done for years, forever. And now they're being told by a federal judge they can't do that. Here's Richard from Millsboro, Delaware, reporting that big crowd and lines at an American Legion post where voting is taking place. Heavy traffic near the, oh my gosh, I'm looking at the traffic just to get in to vote. My friends, this is it is a very encouraging. We've got to stay with it. Vote early. It is imperative this year that you vote early. Or what we're going to see, if the Demcoms are allowed to do to Delaware and other states what they've done to the People's Republic of California, you are going to see more people like John O'Connor. Very successful in life, but just saying, I'm just out of the process. There's no way I can do anything about it. The enemy is far too entrenched and in control. We don't want that to happen anywhere across the United States. So remember, you have a voice. Make sure your voice is heard loud and clear. We'll be back on the radio again at 9 Eastern Time on Monday. Millie, you're home.
WGMD Rehoboth Beach and 98.5 WUSX Seaford, the talk of Delmarva.